Hello, I am Dr. Shane Gassaway, and this is a video about Plato's forms. In this video, I will be focusing on the metaphysical aspects of Plato's theory of the forms. So first of all, what is a form? The word for it in Greek is eidos. It refers, or it is derived from a word for sight, the visible aspect of a thing. So the form of a thing is its look, the kind of look that it has. You know, a cat has a certain look, which is why we have cat emojis, and a Ford has a certain look that doesn't quite belong to Toyota, right? So the look of a thing is its form, and the form of a thing, certain things, has a certain kind of being that is distinct from other kinds of beings. So to give you an example, we could think about circularity. Everybody knows what a circle is. I'm going to draw one. It's not a perfect circle, but you get the picture, right? It's got a certain form, a look to it. If you wanted to define it, it would be a plane figure whose circumference, the points on the circumference of which are all equidistant from the center, right? So this particular object here participates in circularity, the form of a circle, to a certain degree. But it's not perfect. And in fact, you've never seen a perfect circle. Even the circles that you see printed in books that are done with computers and jet printers and things like that, these are all, in fact, imperfect circles. If you took a microscope out and you looked at it very closely, you'd see that it gets grainy and that not all of those points are equidistant from the center. The line itself has thickness, the line of the circumference. So the circle itself, the form of the circle, is somewhat something distinct from any object that has circularity or that looks like a circle. So what does this mean? Well, think of this. I've just drawn this figure here. I drew it at a certain time in a certain place. You're now looking at a visual representation of it in a certain place at a certain time, distinct from now for me. And each of those representations, because it is in space and in time, has an existence that is fleeting. It came into existence and then it will pass away from existence. At some point this paper will disintegrate. This file that I'm uploading right now, or that I'm recording right now and will upload later, this file will eventually be deleted. And if not, the computers that host it will crumble, right? So you have, on the one hand, these things that participate in circularity, which occur in time and space, come into being, pass away, change. And on the other hand, you have circularity itself, which doesn't seem to have changed. It's not different from what it was 2,400 years ago when Socrates drew a circle in the sand. And so, in a weird way, circularity itself is outside of time and outside of space. You can draw a circle here in my kitchen. Or you can draw a circle in the sand in Athens, and circularity is in both places. In fact, I guess I should say circularity is in neither place. Circularity itself is in neither place, but each circle participates in circularity, and that's what gives it its circular character. So this has a participation in the form of circularity. So, what does this mean? Well, this means that there are two classes of beings, at least two classes of beings. On the one hand, you have the forms, and on the other hand, you have the objects of experience. Okay, so forms, objects of experience. The objects of experience are the things that we run into every day, and each of them comes into being and passes away. Each of them exists in space and in time. And the forms, each of them actually does participate in forms also. The forms, however, have their own distinct being. And because they don't exist in time and space, they are eternal. And since they are eternal and unchanging, so it also the circularity hasn't changed, right, from 2,400 years ago to now. So if they're eternal and unchanging, then their being is of a higher class. Because our being, as objects of experience, our being is involved also with non-being, insofar as we come into being and then we pass away, and we're constantly changing. So we're always becoming something different, ceasing to be what we are. And so, since the objects of experience are not always one and the same, their being is somehow tainted or not quite as real as the being of the forms. So the realness of the forms is absolute, and the realness of the objects of experience is contingent. Okay? So in terms of metaphysics and the nature of being and existence, forms, Plato's theory of the forms basically comes to this. There are different categories of being. There's a degree of realness to beings, and the forms are of a distinct category. And we should all be very glad that they exist, because they are what make things circular. They are what make things beautiful. So if you go out on a levee and you watch the sunset and you say, wow, that's remarkably beautiful, you have the form of the beautiful to thank for that. And to the degree that you are able to witness and understand that, you're actually, you yourself, participating in a greater degree of being, a greater realness. And so to understand the forms is actually to enhance your own reality, to become more real, to participate in being to a higher degree. And that kind of brings us to the epistemological aspects or features of the theory of forms, which is the subject of the next video. So I'm going to stop here.